this is brought to you by Major. Like and subscribe to get your notifications. Couldn't do it without you, need your full participation. And we give it back just to show our appreciation. Tune in daily, get your positive vibrations. Learn different words in your own native language. Learn being black ain't all about slavery. Put that in the school book, it's part of education. We need to rewrite it, need some better information. Like how we built the pyramids and formed our own nation. Visit different continents and then try to invade them. Way before Columbus, but that ain't none of these pages. It's all just rumors, just a bunch of speculation. But why in every myth, every hero is Caucasian? Even white people starting to say this shit is racist. Like how they talking to blacks for this vaccination. This is MajorTv and this is brought to you by Major. Like and subscribe to get your notifications. Do it without you, need your full participation. And we give it back just to show our appreciation. This is MajorTv and this is brought to you by Major. Like and subscribe to get your notifications. Do it without you, need your full participation. And we give it back just to show our appreciation. Appreciate the views and appreciate the comments. Keeping it real, always giving you this content. Hoping that my people don't take nothing out of context. Giving you this knowledge, hoping that it change your mindset. Telling you you're beautiful like the dawn of the sunset. And letting them know black power is more than just a concept. MajorTv, you know we do this for the people. Changing the community and raising future leaders. This is MajorTv and this is brought to you by Major. Like and subscribe to get your notifications. Couldn't do it without you, need your full participation. And we give it back just to show our appreciation. This is MajorTv and this is brought to you by Major. Like and subscribe to get your notifications. Couldn't do it without you, need your full participation. And we give it back just to show our appreciation.
Positive vibration. Good day to you all. This is Major. And thank you for tuning to MajorTv. Let's talk. Today we have a very special guest. By way of Allegra Hall introduced me to this beautiful sister. She has a remarkable story. If you haven't checked out her story, all the information in the description of this video. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody that's tuning in live. And if you're tuning in, please like and share this live. We have a very, very inspiring story. And we have some real information that we think the people need to know about. So if you're tuning in, please like and share. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank everybody for all the love and support. For our bring the sister on with knowledge. Two people that came through right quick. Black, first, second, and third. X, hello. Peace and blessings. How you doing? And C. Kerr come through. Hello, Black. People love, peace and unity. From Erie, PA. Let me bring this beautiful sister up. Miss Erica Lynn. Erica Speaks, how you doing?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm beautiful. After having you on, I checked out your bio or the remarkable work you're doing. Your book I haven't read, but I peeped through it here and there. But I'm gonna get around to it.
Okay.
We're coming from a melanated sister, and what you stand for, right? I think it's fitting that you be on this channel today and speaking about what you want to speak about. Before I go into any questions, I want you to tell people about yourself. Let's get it.
Okay. My name is Erica Lynn Speaks. I am a motivational speaker and a transformation coach. I'm also a podcast host and an author of the book 7 Techniques of Healing. I believe that people don't go to their next level because there's things that's holding them back most importantly, sometimes you hold yourself back mentally, right? You think that you can't do something. You already say, I can't do it. I won't do it. You've already committed to not doing it. So my goal as a coach is to show you that you can do it, provide you the steps that get you there. But ultimately, which is my tagline, it only takes one step beyond you, means that it just take that first step. And once you take that first step, it's almost like you can breathe a little bit and then you just follow through. And God, he always provides the steps to follow.
So what inspired you? What started this journey?
Well, I hit rock bottom. I think I hit the lowest that anybody can hit, or for me, what was low for me. I had spent most of my life in a 10-year abusive marriage, and getting into bad relationships after bad relationship, adding on bad habits, steady doubling down on bad habits, and being a full-time mom. And there was so much weight and pressure of things that I did or was done to me, and I had never gone through my healing journey. And so I just ran through life, right? I just like most people do, you run away, right? If something get too tough, you run away. If the relationship ain't working out, then you get a divorce, or you run to the next relationship hoping that it would work out. And I went back to college when I was 35 years old. So when I was getting ready to graduate from college, and my daughter was in Taiwan in college, and my son was working a good job, and everybody, all my family and pieces were aligned. But again, I had never did my healing journey. And so for me, I found myself sitting there rocking in my rocking chair because everybody was gone. So I was forced to deal with myself. I was rocking. And then all of these things that I ran from or hid or never healed, they just finally surfaced up, and I was ready to commit suicide.
Wow.
And when I was at that point, I just remember like, God, why am I here? What am I going to do? What is my next step? Like I just couldn't face my reality that I built and that I ran from. And then my phone rang. And it was a friend of mine like, hey, I'm in town. Can I come and visit? I was like, yeah. So again, I pushed it back in, and we had a little brief chat conversation. He left to go about his way, but then he called and he said, there's something not right about you. What's going on? And I just started crying. And that went on for about 6 months. But in that part, if he hadn't called, that would have been my last day here on this earth. So God sent one of his soldiers to walk with me while I started and went through my healing journey. So that's what started all of this. As I was going through my healing journey and I come through, I said, wow, if these steps that was aligned for me can work for me, I can imagine how it could be a blessing and how it can help other people. And so that's how I turned it into a book, a program, a podcast, and this journey that I'm on now.
What was that breaking point where the abuse after 10 years, the trauma you was going through, what was that breaking point for you where enough was enough, you had to move on, and then you had to fix you?
Well, the breaking point that caused me to go down to the lowest point, well, I've always stayed busy. I have 3 adult children. I worked 2 jobs. I just stayed so busy that I didn't have to deal with my reality. And I was going to Taiwan. I was leaving for Taiwan in I think a week or 2. I was leaving for Taiwan in 2 weeks. And I went and got a loan from the credit union. So that covered all of my expenses in the household, right? And then the goal was to work as much overtime as I could at the second job. And so I would have money to go to Taiwan. But when I was in Taiwan, then I would get a paycheck, right? Well, when I went to work that Monday, they was like, there's no work here for you. And the work that is here, we have to give it to the full-time employees because you're contingent. So I was at the hospital. So you're contingent. So then I'm sitting there like, oh my God, what am I going to do about money? Like, that's a whole nother country that I'm going to, even though my children are there, but I'm the mom. I'm supposed to show up in the mom form, right? And do what parents are supposed to do. And it forced me to sit back to see this hole that I dug myself in. And I dug myself in a financial hole that was so intense that started long before this Taiwan trip. It's just that my finances were so bad, I didn't realize how bad they were until I was forced to look at them. See, many people don't know how bad their finances are because they don't look at it, right? If you don't look at your credit report, you don't really know what's on your credit report. If you don't look at like all of the debt that you racked up on the credit cards, you just pay the monthly balance, but you throw the bill over, or you never actually look at it in its entirety. But when you are forced to look at the mess that you created, man, you seen the movies how people jump off a bridge and blow their brains out because they are in so much financial debt and they never addressed it. So for me, my breaking point was that my finances were so bad. I had taken out loans for the kids for college, loans for me to go. Like, it was bad. I didn't know how I was going to even survive after this point. Because when you go on a vacation, you're supposed to set yourself up in a way that all your bills is paid, all your spending money is already in the account. Don't worry about it. The bills for the next month is covered. But if you don't have that, you can't even enjoy yourself while you're on vacation. And that's what was my breaking point. That how did I allow my finances to get this bad that I can't breathe?
When you start your journey of healing, and we're talking about the book itself that you actually wrote, and 7 Steps of Healing, how I overcame abuse to live my authentic life, by Erica Lynn, of course, yours truly. When that started, and what inspired the book?
Well, while I was going through my healing journey, right, these same steps and techniques that I put in the book, I was actually utilizing them. It wasn't easy. So I'd be lying to people and tell you that you're going through your healing journey is easy, because I had a lot of things that I had to heal from. So the part of the story that everything really started from was when my father left when I was a little girl. So that started me to have daddy issues. It started me to looking for love in all the wrong places. So if a man showed me attention or be nice to me, I'm like, oh, he loves me, whether it's from a brother standpoint or a father standpoint, or looking at him like he's an uncle, but they really wouldn't be looking at me that way. They would look at me in other ways. So we had a neighbor that lived across the street from us, and he was a friend of my mom. So my mom used to always say, well, go over there and wash his dishes. He like you, he'll give you money, or go ask him to take you to the store for me. And I was 13 years old by this time. And so I was looking at him like an uncle, or, something like that, or a granddad or something. And so one day he would always ask me for hugs, but the hugs felt really uncomfortable. And it started kind of causing my behavior to act out. So one day mom said, well, go over there, wash his dishes. You can get money for the ice cream trunk or whatever. So I remember putting on a big winter coat, and it was like 80 degrees. It was summertime. And I go over there, I wash his dishes. And I was like, well, I know that he's going to come in for a hug, but I'm protected in this coat. Well, he unzipped the coat and he reached in and he hugged me. But because I was so small, his arms went around me and came back to the front, and he began touching me in places that he shouldn't. So that made me very uncomfortable. It made me feel like, what is he doing? And I didn't say anything, because if anybody met my mother was a fighter or cusser, right? She'd cuss you out. And I was like, oh, I don't want my mama to go to jail. So I didn't know what to say, but it changed my behavior. It changed the way I act, the way I think, the way I did things. And so from there, it spiraled to the last point where my mom was like, ask him to take you to the store. I need some stuff, for dinner. And I did that. And when we got back to his car, I went to sit in the back seat. He says, I want you to sit in the front seat. I was like, I don't want to. And he encouraged me to sit in the front seat. So I remember sitting very close to the edge of the door, looking out the window like it was just the greatest world outside that car. And he says, oh, were you sitting very far? So he reached over, he grabbed me and gently pulled me close to him. And back then, there was no center consoles made in the vehicles, as everybody know. So there was nothing really separating him and I. And I just remember bracing myself. But that brace was no match for a 60-year-old man. And then he began touching me and doing very inappropriate things. But what that did was that caused me to be a runner. So I ran through life. I ran from my mom. I ran from my responsibilities. I became a runaway. I started stripping at the age of 17. You know, I ran into the arms of my first husband, which he was 7 years older than me, and I was 17, 18 years old. And then that's how the abuse started. And so it was just a trickle effect of adding on more abuse on top of abuse. And it was so much that if someone wasn't abusing me mentally or verbally, then all I knew, I began to abuse myself. And so after living life that way over and over again, relationship after relationship, when I started to do better at 35 years old, I decided, like, I'm going to change this. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to get a degree. I'm going to make more money. I'm going to, I'm just going to put myself in a better position. When the rock bottom part happened, I understood at that point that I had to face everything that I had been running from and dealing with all these years. So when I started the healing journey, a lot of things came up out of me that I had suppressed and threw in the back of my brain, because that's what a lot of trauma victims do. When you experience a traumatic experience and you say, well, why they didn't know? How can you not remember that this happened to you? How could you not remember that he abused you or raped you or whatever? It's because you throw it back in your forebrain and you forget about it on purpose so that you can just go through life. And so that's what I did. And so going through this healing journey, all of those things that I threw in the back of my brain started to surface. And so it was days that I cried so hard, Major, that I just was like, I was exhausted from crying. And God just blessed me with somebody and a team in my life that there were days that when I couldn't go, they were there praying for me. They were there uplifting me and building me up. And so I started writing in a journal and started writing the steps of the process that I was going through, so that when I came out of this healing journey, there laid in front of me the 7 steps that I used in order for me to go through my healing journey.
Wow. Good day to you all. Thank you for tuning in. We're the beautiful Erica Lynn. We're going to put speaks on because she do has a podcast as well. But she's a motivating speaker. She's an author and she's a life coach. And we're talking about her story and her quest. So you dealt with sexual abuse. You made some decisions young. Because I have to squeeze this in right quick. No, I'm gonna come back to this because this is a little. I want to keep it where I'm at, but you go through that with this older man. Was that a relative?
No.
All right, go to this older man in the 60s. And we know sexual abuse is bad in our community, very bad. It's covered up, especially in a lot of different situations. But anyway, you go to sexual abuse. You're dealing with this trauma of trying to understand what's going on in your life. Not being able to talk about it. This is just building up. And you strip. You engage into a relationship, what have you, and et cetera, just life,
Yeah.
When you realize it was not your fault that was happening to you, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you came to that conclusion.
When did I come to that conclusion?
Yeah.
4 years ago. 4 years ago. So
that's recent.
Yes. 4 years ago.
And can you tell the listening audience, because there's so many melanated sisters that went through what you went through, even worse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to them. I know we're talking about your story. I know you're also touching people, so you're doing it twofold, but you really need to talk about it because we still dealing with that in our community.
Well, sexual abuse is not just our community, it's in all communities.
True.
It's something that is not really talked about. And there's several reasons, because you will look at a young lady and you will say, why didn't you say anything? There are several reasons why young women don't say anything. They don't want their parents to go to jail, because it's like, oh, if I tell my mom or my dad that this happened and they, do something to the person that did it to me, now I'm going to be without a parent because my parents will be locked up. Or B, you have parents or someone in your life who just won't believe you. And so you feel like if you tell, that no one is going to believe you, or they're going to blame you for what happened to you. I mean, there's so many different scenarios as to why people don't speak up, but it happens. And once it happens, the goal is to figure out how to heal from it, how to put the pieces of your life back together. That means that you're going to have to find help. You're going to have to find someone that you trust, that you can confide in. That's why I put a platform together, so that it's easier for young women to come to me and talk to me, because they understand that I had this experience, and it's easier for them to divulge their information to me. But you have to find someone that you can trust, so that you can get it out. Because when you don't get this information out, Major, it's like a collapsed bridge. I'm telling you. I always say that the life that you live is it's like the things that happen to you is your foundation, right? So when you're molested or abused or victimized, then your foundation is cracked, right? And what do most people do with a cracked foundation? They add life onto it. They go to school, they add a husband, they add kids, they add work, car notes, bills, all of this on top of a cracked foundation. And when you do that, what happens is one day your foundation is no longer strong enough to handle all of these things that you placed on top of it. And just like a bridge, it'll collapse. So what that means is that results into depression, that results in alcoholism, drug abuse, sex addiction, verbal abuse, mental abuse, not feeling that you're good enough, not feeling that you're worthy. All of these things result of never getting the healing that you need, or going through your healing journey.
And let's speak about suicide. Because I know you're mentioning, I think most people, even I, when I was young, I committed suicide when I was, well, attempted suicide, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know what made me think about doing what I did, taking sleeping pills. But at that time, I don't know. I was just young, crazy, and whatever. And I took some of the pills, and they had to rush me to St. Claude, New Orleans. And they, I don't know. They sound like they put sand in my mouth, make you throw up everything that. And they were like 13, 50. I just was tripping though, right? And I don't know. I said, well, I was thinking I'm ready to die, but I know I took some pills, right? But I think a lot of people think about suicide, especially when life gets tough. And the example you just gave, let's speak about that.
Well, there's a lot of people out here that have tried to commit suicide. There's a lot whom have committed suicide, as we know, right? Because we hear about it afterwards. But what I want to say is this: if you're feeling that way, or you thinking, having those negative thoughts, or just in a depression that you can't come out of, I encourage you to get help. I encourage you to reach out to someone and tell them how you're feeling. There's a 1-800 number. And so hopefully after this podcast is over, we can, post the number down in the comment section for those who, need to contact the suicide hotline. But suicide comes from so many different reasons. Just not feeling that you're good enough, or not feeling that you're heard or cared about, or that if you leave here today that no one will miss you, or the fact that your financial problems are so deep that you don't know how to fix them, or that you have bipolar. Like, there's so many different things. We could be here all day, right? Naming what people go through. But it is, again, because they didn't take the initiative to reach out to someone to ask for help, or someone that's the people that's around you in your inner circle didn't notice that something was different about you and didn't take the time to really dig deeper into what's going on with you so that you can go, start your healing journey and get the help that you need.
All right. And let's get into the healing process, right? Like, we have trauma. And when you have trauma and you don't get the healing, you stack trauma, trauma on trauma on trauma on trauma. In most cases, it leads to a lot of bad things. Yes. Drugs, permissive behavior, etc., etc., etc. And unfortunately, suicide and recklessness for a lot of people. Yeah. When the healing process, how should the healing process start? And what's the step? I know you got the 7 steps. You got to go back to your book, 7 Steps of Healing.
That's right. Well, the healing process. So first of all, I took the 7 steps of healing, and I'm an acronym lady. So I took the word healing and I broke it down to the H stands for heal, the E stands for educate, the A stands for action, the L is leap, I is inspire, the N is need, and the G is growth. So when you go through your healing journey, first of all, you have to be willing to put it all out there on the table. You got to be vulnerable. You got to put the good stuff you did, the bad stuff, the things you were ashamed of. Like, you have to put it all out there on the table. But when you get started putting your things on the table, you got to discover techniques that you can utilize as you go throughout the process. So one, I teach a breathing technique that people use. I use it and others use it, because sometimes and I don't want to cuss on your show, but sometimes facing your own stuff can be so hard. Like, oh my God, like embarrassing or ashamed, or just like, I can't believe I did that. Like, because you could have done things that were very vile, and you just like, oh my God, make you want to throw up, seeing the things that you did. So you have to put it all out there, and you got to breathe through it. You got to use some of the techniques that are taught in the book, so that when you grudging up this stuff, you have something that can help you stay sustained, whether it's a support person or, a team of people, or breathing techniques, whatever works for you, you got to be able to use it. So once you start bringing these things up, you got to address them. And as you're addressing them, you got to, first of all, you have to forgive the other person for what they did to you, right? And more importantly, you got to forgive yourself. If you don't forgive yourself, then you're going to always blame yourself for what happened to you. So being able to get to that point to where you can forgive yourself, when you get to that point, then you'll be able to walk through the other steps because you forgave yourself. Because oftentimes when a traumatic experience happened, you blame yourself, like, oh, if I had did this, or oh, if I didn't go over there, or oh, if I had took somebody with me, or if I wasn't smiling too, good hard at this man, then maybe it wouldn't have happened. But the reality is, it's nothing that you could have done differently. That was just your life's experience, right? That was what you had to go through on your journey. So you have to forgive yourself. And once you forgive yourself, then you'll be able to go through the rest of the steps. So that's the first step. You got to start the healing journey and work to that place of forgiveness.
I was checking out on an interview you had, and you was talking about writing down affirmations and repeating it. Can you speak about that?
Yes. So when we get to the affirmation part, that's in the inspiration chapter. But there's something that your audience can do just like I do it daily. It kind of reminds me of, like, how Mary J. Blige has this song called Gorgeous, Good Morning, Gorgeous. And in the song, she says, wake up and look in the mirror. I'm not talking about with your hair done, with your makeup on. Look in the mirror with your raw face and say, good morning, gorgeous. So what she's saying is you are the first person that pour into you. When you wake up in the morning, you pour into you. So with the affirmations, I recommend that you get 5 index cards. And on those index cards, I'll give you the first 3, but I want you to complete the last 2 on your own. So I know you have men on your show, and I do understand I have a large women following, but you can put, I am wonderful. That's one index card. I am fantastic. I can accomplish whatever I want to accomplish. And then I want you to put the other 2, feeling something that's personable to you. So in the morning when you wake up, you have those index cards on the mirror in the bathroom, if that's the place that you go to, or on the refrigerator or the kitchen cabinet, the place that you address the most. You might even want to put them in your car if you're a person that like drives all the time. But you say those affirmations in the morning and you say them with such conviction. I am powerful. I am wonderful. I can accomplish anything that I set my mind to. I am goal driven. I am fantastic. I am a motivational speaker. I'm going to change lives. MajorTv is going to be on platforms all over the world. When I speak, everyone listen. So you say these once in the morning and once at night, every day for 30 days. And in 30 days, I would love for everyone to come over into my DMs or contact me. If you're on social media, you can put hashtag Erica Lynn fam and put your response, and me or somebody from my team will get with you, or you can come in my DMs. I want to hear from you guys because this really does work. I really want to hear how it made an impact, because they say it takes 7 to 14 days to form a habit. So if you form these habits of telling yourself that you can do, you can accomplish whatever goals you set for yourself, watch what comes out your mouth. Your actions begin to follow. So affirmations start that part of coming out of your mouth. So you're saying to yourself, I'm holding myself accountable because I spoke it out my mouth. And now my actions are going to follow, that I'm going after my goals and my dreams, and that I'm going to the level that I want to go to, that you're going to take MajorTv all over. You're going to start that program, and everybody is going to come to your program because you spoke it out your mouth. And now the universe is saying it's time for your actions to follow.
Speaking existence.
Yes.
So we're dealing with confidence. We're dealing with self-motivation. We're dealing with self-esteem, right?
Yes.
We deal with a special trauma as a community, melanated community. This trauma is like no other trauma in my eyes. Not that everybody got their own trauma. We deal with low self-esteem. We deal with image issues. We deal with cultural issues. We deal with psychological issues. We deal with community issues. We deal with systemic issues. We deal with love issues. We deal with confidence issues. We deal with confusion issues. We deal with life issues for melanated people, people of color, people who have been targeted and abused. I know the message is almost the same, but I just want you to just talk to us, because I think nobody really wants to address the elephant in the room when it comes down to our situation. We can't talk about doing for self. We can't talk about our car. We can't talk about nothing. We can't even wear a T-shirt without somebody having something to say. While we did watch people furry flags and this, that, and other, but it come down to us, So can you talk about it if you want?
Well, it just kind of goes into what I've been teaching on my podcast for the last 3 weeks, right? So for the month of April, the topic is declutter. And these 4 weeks are also 4 steps that when you declutter your mind, your body, your soul, your spiritual soul, when you start that process of decluttering, it still goes along the lines of what we're saying here. I just break it down step by step so people can receive it and apply it to their life, right? Because if you give somebody too much too fast, too soon, right, then they become overwhelmed and can't work through the process. So the first week, what we did was declutter your mind. And I actually gave them a tool that they can use called brain dumping. So that means that you have to take everything that you're holding up here, meaning the traumatic experiences that you had, the not feeling good enough, the low self-esteem, the abuse, the you being the abuser and someone else abusing you, because it goes both ways. And now your sexuality is a big one these days. People being homophobic, people being gay or not gay. That's a lot for people to deal with, right? And I've met a lot of gay people that are in abusive relationships, all because of what we're talking about here today, right? Not feeling good enough and just accepting because this person said that they love me, that they're going to accept this abuse and this traumatic experiences with them because this is the one person that showed me love in this form. So when you get all of this out and you brain dump it, that means that you have to write down everything that's going on in your brain. I don't care what it is. Write it down on a piece of paper. And so it's a funny thing when you see something that you've written down. First thing that it did was you took it from here to put it on the paper. Now you released it, right? You saying, I'm not holding on to it anymore, right? I'm not holding on to that memory. And believe it or not, something as simple as that one step, it allows you to breathe. Like, right? You feel a sense of release. You feel a sense of, wow, I'm not carrying that anymore. So I encourage everybody to just do that one simple step. And so when you write it down, now it's time to figure out what's the next steps so you can create goals, because going through your healing journey and going past this traumatic experience, you actually have to create goals to heal. So it's not just something that you wake up and you say, I'm healed. You actually set a goal for yourself. What does that look like? It's different for everyone else, right? So mine meant that I had to go to therapy. I started training with a personal trainer. I got me a support system with people around me that I felt comfortable, sharing these things. But whatever that is for you is the steps that's designed for you. No two people are the same. The principles is the same, but the way you apply the principles to your life is different. And so because you've gone through this traumatic experience, it is very important for you not to hold on to it and start this process. So now you start with your mind, right? That's what we said. You declutter your mind, right? You get it out. The second step was you got to declutter your house. So you don't realize how, have you ever looked at a person's car and it's junky and it's full of stuff, and you go to their house and it's junky? And then how is that person's behavior? They confused, they're unclear, right? Everything keep coming at them, whether it's the abuse, whether it's having a bad day at work, whether it's your kids getting on your nerves, right? All of these it's a compound of things. So it's never just one thing. But now if you decluttered your mind, now it's time for you to clean up your house, get your house in order. Why is that important? Because you're going to need that when you're going through your healing journey. You don't want to come home from work and your house is junky, or you can't go get in a clean bed, or your dishes there. That compiles and add on to the mental space that you are already in. But if you come home to a place that you've cleaned, got it organized, again, that's step 2 in the process of decluttering your brain. And if you go to my website on the blog page, I gave everybody step-by-step tools that you can use with the process of starting to declutter your home, because it's not easy, right? We go in there and we say, oh, we're going to clean out the closet. And you take everything out your closet and dump it on the bed. Now you turn around, you got another pile, right? A clutter pile that still add on. So I actually give you steps that will make that process easy for you. But once you declutter your mind, your house, you got to declutter spiritually. What does that look like? That means that you have to build a better relationship with God. You got to build your spiritual side. You got to you got to let it go. Like, God forgives you for the things that you did or went through. You got to forgive yourself. And that means that it can take something as simple as 5 minutes a day to start your decluttering spiritual process. You know how every day on the Bible, I don't know if you have the Bible app, it'll send you the daily verses every day. So read those daily verses, read one verse. And after you read that one verse, just say a quick prayer. You'll be surprised how that 5 minutes started your day and how you feel going forward. Now, step 4, and then I'm done, will be decluttering your body, right? I really wish I could cuss because this is
Time out. This is for adults. You can cuss. You can be yourself. I just don't cuss. Like, I don't do that in my real life. Cuss like that. I use the profane, but be yourself. That's the way I am. I don't stop.
And I don't either. But it's sometimes certain things I feel so passionate about certain things.
Me too. That's how I am. I just let it come out.
and there's like no real word for me wanting to say that your body is so full of shit, like literally. And it's full of stuff, and that's
and all that.
There you go. And it weighs you down. And when you are filled up with all of this stuff, it still all plays a part in your mind, because again, you don't feel beautiful or handsome. You don't feel like you're good enough. You don't feel like you can run 5 miles, or you can keep up with your small kids, or that you're the perfect mate. Like, all 4 of these things play a part. So when you start your decluttering process, means it relates over to you going through your healing journey. So that's how you go through the part of releasing yourself from these traumatic experiences that you've had in your life.
Positive vibration. Good day to you all. Thank you for tuning in with the beautiful Erica Lynn, the author of 7 Techniques of Healing. How I overcame abuse to live my authentic life. I'm reading from my screen. I don't want to just guess it, you know what I'm saying? But I haven't read it. I did look over in the Kindle. I think I got a Kindle copy. I'm gonna buy a paperback copy. This sister is dropping some jewels. Hope people receiving it. And even people that watch the replay, y'all have to tune in and listen to what she's saying and read the book. I'm definitely gonna read the book. I'm so inspired by what you're talking about. And there's so many facets of what you're talking about, and so many questions I want to ask, but I'm not trying to keep you long. But what I do want to know is what is it's a 2-part question. What is to be inspired, and what is happiness?
Okay.
And it's plain as sense, but I have a couple more questions before I let you go.
Okay.
All right.
So what is to be inspired? That takes you into where we are now, right? It's 2022. We done with the pandemic. A lot of people had to face their fears. A lot of people had to face this depression that they went through. Like, you had to deal with yourself during the pandemic, which resulted in you didn't even know you having these feelings that you had. So I just got one question to ask you. What's next, right? What's next in your life? And so a lot of people have no idea what's next or how to become inspired. So the program that I created, What's Next, it helped you go through that process of figuring out what's next for you, because no 2 people's next is the same, right? But there's a thing that happens when you write your goals of what's next, and you go on that process of experiencing your goals and achieving your goals and figuring out what's next. There's a level of inspiration that happens that nobody can take from you. I mean, you wake up in the morning and you just be like, good morning. I'm so happy, because you can't see, but I have boards around the house, right? And every time I accomplish something, I go across it off. Remember, I told you guys in the beginning that my finances being bad was really part of my depression at the end, right? What caused me to go into that slump. So now what did I do? I took financial literacy classes. I did have to file bankruptcy at that point, right? And got discharged from it. But then I fell off again because I didn't learn the principles. So I really learned the principles now of budgeting and keeping a great calendar, doing my daily journals as far as my finances concerned, writing my monthly budget. And if an opportunity comes at me, that's just the greatest opportunity. I'm going to be on the magazine, I'll do this, and it requires me to take something that's not in my budget. I ain't doing it. I ain't doing it. So being aware and having the knowledge that you didn't have before, man, you will have so much inspiration, because when you turn down something, it's like that's going to take you away from the path that you know is right for you. Man, that's so much gratification, Major. Like, I was even asked to attend a conference, which would have probably cost me like $2,000. I've already budgeted my money out for the year. That means payroll for my staff, my budget for my expenses, all of that. The trips that I'm taking, they're already paid for. From the hotel to the air flight to the spending money, that's already done. And when you ask me to do a new trip that's not included in my budget, oh, it's great. It sounds great. It looks great. Oh my God, I bet you meeting Lisa Nichols and Les Brown and whoever going to be, oh, that's phenomenal opportunity. But if it's going to cause me to be back in that same depression, or cause me to be stressed and figure out how I'm going to pay the bills at the beginning, I'm good. But I'm in a position where I'm educated. I educated myself, and I can make an educated decision. So a lot of times stress comes to people that are not in the position. They don't have all of the knowledge in order to make an educated decision. So that's from a financial standpoint and certain other, standpoints. But when we come to traumas that we experienced, when you have the knowledge of knowing that it's not your fault and that you can go through the healing journey, then you can move forward and you can be inspired knowing that, I healed from that thing. That thing no longer holds me down. It no longer holds that weight, because it holds you down. Like trauma and stress, it holds you down. But when you release from it, they're going to be like, look at Major. He different. I want some of where he at. Look at Erica Lynn, and some of your viewers that may have experienced trauma. That's inspiration in itself, saying that I released from that. I released it. Oh, that's not holding me down. I'm letting it go. I'm moving forward. I'm walking into where God is taking me.
Okay. Let's get that's I'm loving all your points. I'm loving everything you're sharing. But let's sum of this up. I definitely want to ask you a question. I heard you bring up something on interview. I want to ask you about that. First and foremost, you're talking about a holistic approach. Spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, financial, what have you. Second, you're talking about fixing your life and managing life. And people have to understand that trauma becomes trauma when it's not fixed, when you allow a problem to be a problem. And more importantly, when you talk about the part about a person, car being junkie, the house, how confused they be. I know people like that. And I won't lie. When things get messed around me, I know something ain't right. I'm going in a rut. Yeah. I love to come in hell weekly. I love to wash my truck. Different things I do to keep my self-esteem, keep my morale, everything high. And I'm listening to everything you're saying. It's so powerful because in our community, we don't express that enough. We don't practice that enough. We don't share that enough. But I have to ask you this question, right?
Okay.
Let's speak on laws of reciprocity. I love the way how you was talking about that. Let's talk about that.
Well, it's very simple. The laws of reciprocity is this. Whatever you put out in the atmosphere, it's going to come back. So if you're a con artist, guess what? Somebody going to come and con you, right? If you're not eating healthy and you're putting that out in the atmosphere, you're going to McDonald's, you're going to Burger King, you're going, you sleeping, you're not exercising, guess what? It's going to come back. You're going to be overweight. You're going to be tired. Your skin is going to be unhealthy. It's not going to be clear, right? Your face is going to be blue. Do you see this? Can you see this? Look How big my face is compared to how my face is now. Totally different, because that's what I was putting out in the atmosphere. So when you put good things out in the atmosphere, when you speak it out your mouth, just like I said earlier, you're beautiful, you're handsome, you're wonderful. God created you to be the best that you can be. Well, guess what? It's going to come back, right? You're going to wake up one day, you're going to get a phone call. I got an opportunity for you. Oh my God. People going to walk in, you're going to walk in the room. They're going to go, oh my God, look at that light that shine on you. Oh my God, I want some of what you have. When you put it out, right? Have you ever gone into a room and you seen somebody so negative? And when you bless them with kindness, they can't even be negative back because you put it out there. And then they have no choice but to give it back to you, right? Because you force them to hold a mirror up to themselves and say, dang, what am I giving off? So when you give off good vibes, when you give off your goals, your dreams, your visions, who God made you to be, then it's going to come back to you full force. Oh my God. And then you're going to be like, guess what, Erica Lynn, somebody just called me and asked me to take my TV show national, or somebody want me to come and speak at their event. That's because you put it out there. So what you put out is what you're going to get back.
Well, I got 2 more questions with 3 probably for you go. Let's talk about the fact you was talking about yelling, crying, all these things and trying to heal, right? Also, I want to talk about, tell people what you do as a life coach. What's a life coach? What you do as a life coach? So there's 2 questions, right? We want to talk about the crying, the yelling, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Get this stuff out you. But also tell people about your service as a life. What's a life coach? Your service community as a life coach, even though I know you've been paid for it, and what you're doing, you know what I'm saying? And what you're doing.
So first of all, because I dealt with depression, I had to understand techniques that work for me, right? Because, you still kind of always go through things, and when things in life don't go right, if you don't learn techniques to catch yourself, then you find yourself slipping back into that depression. What does depression look like? Somebody can say a word to you and you can get asphyxiated on that word, right? And you can just say it over and over and over again until the point where it just consumes you and you sad again and you crying. So before I even get to that point and I feel myself feeling sad or feel myself crying, I'll just be in the car because nobody can hear you in the car. And I just scream and I scream and I scream until I'm just exhausted, and I cry. And it doesn't last long because you get tired of screaming. But I scream and I get it out. And then I take the deepest breath and I feel better. So it's like you exercising your crazy. You got to get your crazy out. Like all of us got some type of crazy in us. I just had to get it out. That's what I do to get my crazy out, because once I do that, then I feel better, because that means that all of the things that I took in from that day, that experience, I just release it and let it go, and I don't come back to revisit. Now, what was the second part to the question?
Was a life coach, and if what you do, how you do it, briefly, and if somebody wants your service or what have you, how you can go about doing it.
So I do a couple of things. First of all, I figure out together, through a series of questions, what your traumatic experience is. So then I show you how to build your foundation, because remember I said everything we do, you have to have a foundation. So we have to fix your foundation first. So we establish what that is, what your support system is, what you need, whatever it is, so that we can get your foundation. Once we figure out what your foundation is, then we start adding on to it, right? Because there's a lot of my clients that wanted to start businesses. I helped them start a successful business, show them how to design, get their systems and their software set up for their website. Because the goal is, when you go through your healing journey, right, and you set your goals for yourself, nobody wants to stay in this place, right? The goal is to move you past this. But in order to get you past this, we got to figure out what it is that's holding you back, and we have to address it. So we go through the 7 techniques. I utilize the 7 techniques of healing program that was created. You get a workbook, success charts, teacher's manual, all of that. And we go through that process so that at the end of going through that core process, we've figured out what your goals are, what you want to do in your life, like what that is. Like some people just want to be like a wife, or some people just want to be the head of the household, right? Have a husband, have a wife and kids, but it's like, I don't feel strong enough to be at that point, right? To have a family. So I got to go through my healing journey. So we start you with figuring out what we're addressing, how we're going to address it, and then I walk with you step by step as we addressing it and accomplishing your goals. Then we figure out what's next for you, right? What do you want to do? What's next? And I say that the reason why that's important, and I'll say this real quick. After I reached my healing point, right? I called my friend one day and I was like, she's back. And he was like, oh, okay. And he said, what's next? I said, that's easy. I want to be a motivational speaker. I want to be a transformational coach. I want to do a podcast and I want to be an author. And he says, well, don't just tell me, do it. So literally the next day I jumped out there and I just started announcing it to the world that this is who I am and this is what I'm doing. And because I said it out my mouth, I actually started walking the steps, taking the action to do it. And so that's what we do. Figure out how to fix your core foundation and provide you with the action steps to go through your journey.
But thank you, Ms. Erica Lynn, for coming on the show to author 7 Techniques of Healing. She have a podcast. She a motivating speaking, like she was just explaining. She's a life coach. Your last words, talk about your podcast, etc., etc., etc. You can hang around for the comments before we leave, but we at the end of this show. But I want you to just do your thing.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for allowing me to come onto your podcast. It was my pleasure. Like, I really enjoyed connecting with you and your audience. And my podcast is called Erica Lynn Speaks. So you can actually Google me, then everything pops up, Erica Lynn Speaks. But on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, you just type in Erica Lynn Speaks and I'll pop up. So for this year, I am coming out with a new program, which is What's Next, how to help you figure out what's next. Because a lot of my clients have gone through their healing journey and a lot of people want to understand what's next. So I am very efficient in systems and software. I am a medical biller and coder by trade, but I studied systems and software. And so when a lot of people see a website, right, and they like, click on buttons and they don't understand what all of that means when you click on buttons and what it does. So I help a lot of my clients set up their systems and software for their business so that you can go through an automated process. And that way you're not driving yourself crazy with all of the nuances of a business. And also, so we're doing that, right? So we're doing what's next. But ultimately, my goal is to, now that we're coming out of the pandemic, I'll be speaking on a lot of stages coming up, in 2022, and then the podcast, we will always keep having new topics. So whenever you go to the podcast, you're going to always learn something, and then we back it up with a blog if you want to see like the actual steps to come from the podcast to the blog. So I just been blessed with a successful team and the place that God has taken me, and most importantly, the part that I talked about, decluttering your body. I started at 299 pounds.
Wow.
And now I'm officially at 230 pounds. So that's why my face no longer looks like that. And it looks like this. And so I got about another 50 pounds to go. But I get up every day, especially on Sunday morning. I work out with my trainer, but I work out 5 days a week. So I had to be committed to my process. And I help other people get committed to their process and their journey.
Thank you so much, sister. You're very beautiful. Keep all that great work. Yeah, get right. Look, this beautiful sister have shared so much information with us. Please go buy our book 7 Techniques of Healing. All the information you talk about in the description of this video. We're gonna go through the comments before we close. But thank you so much. Appreciate you came on the platform. You're welcome to come whenever. You got the number. You got the email. My brother Red Club come to Sabbath Shalom family. Thank you for coming through. I want to say this is a sad reality for too many people. So glad that she's using her voice for change. Thanks for having Miss Erica on Major. Thank you. OCO family, Reminder B. Thank you for coming through, family. He said, "What's up, family? We good. Thank you for coming through, supporting, showing love, Braves. It's my people. Please like, share, comment. Please like, comment, share. Salute to Major Erica Lynn. Thank you both for sharing. Thank you for coming through, my brother. Thank you for support. Bread Club, very well said, Sister Erica Lynn. Thank you. Hey, it's all about you today, sweetheart. Have a blessed beautiful day. I appreciate everybody coming through. TM1 said, great message, very, very powerful message. I'm so grateful, y'all. I'm just so grateful that you all came through. I'm grateful for you. I mean, much love. We got to go, family. We've been doing our thing now. It's time to call it quits, but definitely tune in. I got a live tomorrow from brother that live in Detroit. I heard Ramzu, brother Ramzu Giannis. You ever heard of brother Ramzu Giannis?
No, I haven't.
We got a big move in Detroit. I mean, getting homes to people in Detroit. Then locked them a few times to add them, but he really it's about online vote for Black independence. So definitely about the people helping Black people that's really going through it and government really not supporting them. So you might want people to check it out. It's gonna be we in Africa right now, but we're gonna be tuning in from Africa. Gonna be a live on broadcast.
All right. Well, you have to connect us together because I'm all for working, with people here in my same state. And if we can, how it goes two together can address more than one person can, right? So it takes a community, it takes a village to help everybody. And so whether it's, me providing, because every year I do at least 2 pro bono clients. And I don't charge them anything. And I shouldn't use the word pro bono, but I do help 2 people. I dedicate my time and my services, coaching them through their process. And so you have to be able to give back to the community. So shout out to you and the brother that you're going to have on your show tomorrow.
Yeah, this brother powerful. He deal with human rights. I mean, he break it down. He break the government down. He show where the government just not doing a part for the people. Detroit majority Black people. But you have they have almost the largest homeless rate out there, So it's going to be powerful. He's very fiery. Been met personally, what have you. And he really about the people. So I love you, sister. Y'all do me this favor now. Y'all be safe, be smart, and just be you. Peace.
God bless you.
Let's talk. Yeah. Doing it from the heart, that's the only way of doing it. Giving them food for thought, cause these Jews are real jewelry. Remember, we used to march for peace. The days Dr. King, remember, we would walk the streets showing our unity. Yeah, strength in numbers, we need to talk among us. We need to show more love and be more supportive. Product of my environment, something wrong with the soil. Soldier with no platoon, cause every day it's a war. Doing it from the heart, that's the only way of doing it. Giving them food for thought, cause these Jews are real jewelry. Remember, we used to march for peace. The days Dr. King, remember, we would walk the streets showing our unity. Doing it from the heart, cause that's the only way of doing it. Giving them food for thought, cause these Jews are real jewelry. Remember, we used to march for peace. The days Dr. King, remember, we would walk the streets showing our unity. Let's talk. I ain't saying that it gotta happen overnight, but we gotta make a change to preserve life, serve a greater purpose, and start with you and I. Gotta plant the seeds of hope deep in your mind, and let it grow to something you never thought it would, and give back all the blessings to the neighborhood, just the way you should, the only way to do it. This is MajorTv Music, Black Media. Doing it from the heart, that's the only way of doing it. Giving them food for thought, cause these Jews are real jewelry. Remember, we used to march for peace. The days Dr. King, remember, we would walk the streets showing our unity. Doing it from the heart, that's the only way of doing it. Giving them food for thought, cause these Jews are real jewelry. Remember, we used to march for peace. The days Dr. King, remember, we would walk the streets showing our unity.
The Negro is still languished in the corners of American society, finds himself in exile in his own land. So we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned.